Hello, fairy finders and fairy seekers. Welcome to FaerieQuest and another episode of Real Fairies in Real Photos. This one is called Pixies 2016 to 2017. Now, Pixies are a little difficult to describe. When you look online, it says they look a lot like fairies but without wings. And they are tall and lanky and very mischievous. Now, what you see on the screen here is considered a pixie. I actually saw one of these with my own eyes, but I didn't have a camera, of course, in the town of Melbourne, sitting on the limb of a tree that was struck by lightning. And it looked exactly like the one that you see on the screen, minus perhaps the hat with the stitching. I couldn't see that. Anyway, this is what others believe a pixie looks like. So what you're going to see in the video here are 11 fairies, or fae, that I call pixies. Now, you may not agree, but they give me the feeling of pixie. So if you think that they are something else, that's fine, but they didn't fit anywhere else in my categorizing of these fae. So have an open mind as you view this, but before we get started, as always, grab your magic wand and zap that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and consider supporting this channel by clicking on the link in the description box below. I'd really appreciate it. Okay, here we go. Let's see what a pixie looks like to me. The pixie in this photo is very thin and long-legged with a large head. We can see her flesh-colored face, her little pointed nose, one eye, and a lot of hair. Much of her body is obviously hidden in the grass, and she has blended quite well, so it is exciting to have discovered her as she strolls by on a beautiful sunny day. All that we can see of this pixie is neatly coiffed hair, an ear, and her face with both dark eyes and a tiny nose. She is looking down towards something or attempting to duck out of sight. She looks quite calm and peaceful. This pixie is peeking around the thin trunk of this small tree. This gives you an idea of how small she is. We can see her face as she looks at us straight on with both eyes and her nose. Her hair is piled on top of her head and appears to have a metallic headband in front. Look for the shine. She is holding something. Food, perhaps? Now, isn't this an interesting little pixie? We see red curly hair and a little more than a face profile with both eyes, a nose, and puffy cheeks to show she is smiling. There is also part of an ear. Her body appears whitish and flat, at least for us, and we can see two tiny feet. I feel like she is floating down to wherever she wants to go, and we just happen to catch her in mid-flight. This pixie is a bit larger than many of the fairies I photographed. This was a drive-by highway shot out the window of the car at 65 miles per hour. We can see her face with eyes and a very clear foot and leg. We can actually see both legs and feet, but you have to look closely for the other leg and foot as it is not touching the ground. She is much easier to see in the photo to the left. Here we have a pretty little pixie who is nearly invisible. However, we can see her curly hair and her face with both eyes and her nose. We also see a long arm. She has created herself from the available surrounding foliage. She may have been more solid before I stepped up to take a photo. This little one is not as clear as the others you have seen so far, but she must be included. We can see black hair, both eyes, and a nose and one foot. You might have to go back and forth between the two pictures here to see her as I do. Pixies have mad hiding and blending skills. This little pixie is quite clear as she sits quietly, hoping to go unseen next to the tree. She might have gone unseen except for her coloring, a bit too much light in her green. We can see her tufted hair, her face full on with both eyes, a button nose, and her mouth. She is obviously quite thin with long legs and a large head. She really is quite lovely. A unique looking pixie here, much different than the others as this one appears to be more wild. She has hair that is woolly and sticks straight out on both sides. Her face is pale with huge dark eyes and she has a very tiny hand. We can't see any more of her due to the tall grass she is in, but I feel as though she has had a lot of caffeine. Just kidding. This little pixie is quite clear as well. She has a leaf hat and appears to be wearing sunglasses. We can see her red hair, her dress, and one leg and foot. I have lightened the photo above for you as she is sitting in a darker place. Here we have a pixie walking through the tall grass. We can see her face with both eyes and her nose, though not clearly. She has mid-back length dark hair and seems to have a bit more substance to her than a few of the thin pixies we've seen here, as her leg is not stick thin. We are seeing her because she peeked out at me to see what I was doing. If you look closely, you can see that her eyes are looking right at me as I snapped the photo.